Hi, this is Brandon Bischoff with Canterbury Investment Management. This is the Canterbury Market Update for the week of February the 10th, 2020. And so starting with the market state, we did talk about last week how the S&P 500 was in a market state 2. And that kind of came after a short pullback of about 3.1% in the S&P 500. But last week it also rallied back, turning the short-term indicators back positive and going into market state 1. And we also mentioned last week that that is typical. 75% of market state 2s do go back into being market state 1, so it's almost expected that that sort of thing would happen, especially when you consider, volatility. So the Canterbury Volatility Index currently measures 57, but 2 weeks ago was in extreme low territory, and we actually saw a spike in volatility. And that spike we had been talking about for weeks as having, potential to occur, and it finally did occur. When volatility gets extremely low, it's like the squeezing down of a spring, and you're more likely to see outlier days. That's exactly what we saw. We saw basically 3 days beyond 1.5% over a very short period of time. But as with most cases, when you have spikes out of extreme low volatility, the market usually kind of continues on as if that spike had never occurred, which is exactly what happened. One of the biggest themes so far this year has been the Nasdaq's relative strength increasing over the S&P 500, and that's sort of the theme we saw last year as well. So the Nasdaq has been outperforming the S&P 500 on a relative basis, and we can really see that in this chart. The bottom part of this chart shows the Nasdaq's relative strength compared to the S&P. So when that line is rising like it is now, that means the Nasdaq is outperforming the market on a relative basis. And that's really positive for the markets because it shows that investors are willing to take on a little bit more perceived risk. Now, if we actually look at the Russell 2000, which measures small cap stocks, we'll see the opposite. So its line has been decreasing last year and continued decreasing this year versus the S&P. So the S&P large cap stocks, or in other words, are leading small cap stocks, and so the Russell is showing negative relative strength compared to the market. If we look at Canterbury's risk-adjusted rankings of the style indexes, so we're talking about large cap value, growth, mid cap value and growth, and small cap value and growth. Large caps continue to lead. So the S&P 500 is leading most market indexes with the exception of the technology stocks or the Nasdaq. So value and growth, large cap are showing strength. That's continued on from last year. Small cap value is currently in last place. In fact, all 6 of these different style indexes are in bullish market states. Small cap value is actually in a transitional market state 6. Looking at the Canterbury Portfolio Thermostat and its portfolio efficiency, the thermostat did, pretty much successfully navigate that sort of, those outlier days that we saw 2 weeks ago and that spike in volatility followed by, the rally back in the market. It was able to maintain low volatility and keep its sort of efficient diversification because of its current allocation to those bullish securities and the weights and the diversification of those securities. And so as market environments begin to shift, or if they begin to shift to something that's transitional or something beyond that, the portfolio thermostat will adapt its holdings to maintain that efficiency throughout all market environments, whether they're bull or bear. But again, as a quick summary, we did see a volatility spike coming out of extreme low volatility, and that was expected. And like most volatility spikes, the market sort of reverted back like nothing had ever happened before. But we'll continue to monitor that volatility for any rises or changes. But as of right now, volatility is still low. Nasdaq continues to lead the market. That is positive. The Russell underperforms, but again, large caps are outperforming a lot of different asset classes right now. But the portfolio thermostat will, maintain efficiency as we see different events occur within the markets. But that brings us to the end of this week's Canterbury Market Update. Thank you, and I hope you have a great week.